Let's dive into building an agent that can autonomously manage customer appointment-related emails. We'll be using two key resources: a spreadsheet of customer emails, which includes email bodies, subjects, and addresses for testing, and a spreadsheet of our current appointment bookings. To begin, we need to access Studio Web. In Studio Web, navigate to the drop-down menu and select RPA Workflow under the Solution category. This will serve as our main workflow, orchestrating the entire process, from reading customer emails to prompting our agent and sending responses. The first order of business is to rename the solution. Right-click on Solution and rename it to Appointment Scheduler Agent Solution. Also, rename the RPA workflow file to Appointment Reply Workflow. Now that we've appropriately named our solution, let's begin constructing our workflow. We aim to read each entry in the Customer Emails workbook. To do this, select the For Each Row in Workbook activity. You can establish a new connection or utilize an existing one. For this instance, we have defined a new connection. Next, choose the Customer Email spreadsheet. Now, let's move on to creating our agent. With the solution selected, click on the plus icon and select Agent. This will add an agent to our solution. Let's give it a name, say Appointment Schedule Agent. To create an agent from scratch, click on Start Fresh. Here, you'll find all the components of an agent, including system prompts, user prompts, tools, context, and escalations. Let's begin with crafting the prompts that will define the behavior of this agent. The prompts for this agent have already been shared with you in separate files. We'll start with the system prompt. This prompt outlines the role, goals, and behavior of the agent. Copy the system prompt from the file and paste it here. This system prompt instructs the agent on its primary responsibilities, such as processing incoming customer emails related to appointments, classifying incoming requests into appointment confirmation, cancellation, or changes, extracting relevant data from them, invoking the appropriate tool, and generating a response. It's crucial to provide extraction guidelines, such as extracting customer names and formatting them as first and last names, parsing date and time in a standardized format, and handling distinct scenarios with the appropriate tool call. For confirmations, the agent checks existing appointments and verifies details. For cancellations, it removes the booking and confirms the action. For changes, it updates the appointment with new details. The agent takes the body of the customer's email and their email address as input and generates an appropriate response based on their request. Therefore, we should create these arguments for the agent and further use them in the user prompt section. Go to the Data Manager. Here we define the input and output arguments. Click on Add Property under Input. Name it Email Address and provide an appropriate description. Similarly, create an email body input argument with a relevant description. Based on these two input arguments and the type of request received, the agent will send an appropriate reply. Now, let's move to the output arguments. Rename the default output argument to Email Reply. Copy the user prompt provided in the user prompt text file and add it here. The green-colored text indicates the existence of the relevant arguments. But how will our agent classify the incoming requests into appointment confirmation, cancellation, or change? It needs a tool to perform such actions. Let's build one. We'll go back to the Project Explorer and add another RPA workflow. We'll name it Appointment Check. In the Appointment Check workflow, add a For Each Row in Workbook activity. Next, select the appointment spreadsheet. Before proceeding further, let's create some input and output arguments in the Data Manager. We'll create 3 input arguments: customer name, customer request, and customer date. We'll also create one output argument. All these arguments will be of type string. The input arguments will contain details like the name of the customer, the request made by the customer like appointment confirmation, cancellation, or reschedule, and the appointment date. All these details will be extracted from the incoming customer email. Next, we'll add an if activity. This activity checks if the customer's name exists in the appointment spreadsheet. If the name is found in the appointments workbook, we then examine the customer's request type using switch case statements. We add 3 child elements: check, change, and cancel. For check, we return the appointment date and time according to the appointment spreadsheet. For change, we alter the appointment date in the appointment spreadsheet. For cancel, we remove the relevant record and return an appropriate message. Next, we add another if activity to configure the workflow to respond to situations where an appointment is not found. Finally, we add a log message. Now, it's time to add the appointment check workflow as a tool to our agent. We return to our agent and configure the tool for the agent. Click on Add Tool and select the workflow to add. It is good practice to include a description when adding a tool. Let's return to our primary workflow, the appointment reply workflow. We'll configure it under each row. In the workbook activity, we'll add a run job activity. This activity is useful for starting other automations or agent processes. Once this is done, select your appointment scheduler agent in the process name field. Next, we need to perform data mapping for the agent. The agent's email address input argument will correspond to the from field of our customer email spreadsheet. Likewise, the email body argument will map to the body field. We then need to add a send email activity, which will send the response generated by the agent to our customers. The body field will contain the email reply argument of our agent. Now that our appointment scheduling solution is ready, let's do a final walkthrough before we run our agent. We start with the appointment reply workflow, which is our main workflow. It reads each record in the customer emails workbook, and for each record, the appointment scheduler agent is run. The agent takes the email body and email address read from the customer's emails workbook as input and invokes the appointment check tool. In the appointment check workflow, we check whether the customer name exists in the appointments workbook. If the customer exists, we check the incoming request for its type, whether it's for appointment confirmation, cancellation, or rescheduling. Depending on the request type, the appropriate action is taken and control is returned to the main workflow. With everything set up, let's run our agent. At this point, we're not striving for a complete solution, but simply verifying whether the agent is functioning as expected. To test this, click on Test on Cloud. For the email address and email body field, provide Emma's details from the customer emails workbook and click Run. As you can see, the run was successful. indicating that our agent is functioning correctly. The input was processed accurately, and the agent output shows a confirmation for Emma's appointment. Upon observing the execution trace, you'll find the call made to the appointment check workflow, which was added as a tool to our agent. With the data provided as part of the customer request, the workflow returns a response which is further utilized by the agent. If you'd like to run the complete setup, proceed to the appointment reply workflow and click Test on Cloud. Thank you for watching.